Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with our first grand finalist, the greatest player in the history of the game, the Zerg in the blue, the finisher. It's Serral, facing off against his greatest rival, the Terran in red, the Frenchman from Team Liquid and the reigning world champion. It's Clem, in a best of 7 Terran versus Zerg grand finals to determine who will claim the 2025 BGE Stara Zagora Championship and the greatest part of over $10,000. So before we get started, I don't have anything clever to say. No clever segue today to asking you to smash that like button. And maybe even subscribe. Help me counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Yes, Serral versus Clem. 1,650 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far, and hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better, as the first Overlord will come in and scout Clem's aggressive intentions. Now, Clem is in the game, so the aggressive intentions were already implied. But the first and not last of the Reapers coming across the map, poking and prodding at the drones. And right now, Clem going to try to exploit the sort of map layout here on Pylon, the last vestige of Protoss, since both these players have conspired to eliminate them from the tournament. But with no ramp up to the natural base, with an employee entrance at the back that's nowhere near the hatchery, that means the Reapers can kind of get in, get out, and get a whole lot done before the Queens can do much. Well, Queens or Zerglings can do much about it. Pops around one, and Serral didn't go for a slow Zergling speed, but certainly not quick, as the Reapers come back into the main, looking to bounce them around some more. And Serral, just a subtle juke back, slightly out of the grenade range, trying to pop some more, but a double bounce, the Brenda bounce over to the side. And Clem just keeping the pressure on. He's got 2 command centers in production, using this to cover servers. Oh no, no. Ever the oncologist. Clem comes in, snipes off another tumor. The very first one Serral tried to lay down, which is, in many cultures, considered to be quite a dick move. But behind it, the Reapers already putting the pressure on. Of course, Clem knows the time Zergling speed finishes. And pretty much the moment he sniped off that tumor, Zergling speed finished. But Clem already back across the map. He's got Hellions on the way, a starport. Meanwhile, Serral with a Roach Warren. And that Roach Warren is not to help defend. He's getting a Roach Warren before 4 minutes without a third hatchery done. Obviously, the third hatchery was delayed by the holding actions of the Reaper. Some grenades coming out. Might be able to snipe him off, which would be helpful, but here come the Hellions to save the day. And the Queen in a precarious position. Brenda, no! Get back to Queen! Queen will be saved for now, but 8 roaches in production. This is not a defensive force. Serral is going for the counterattack. Now, the big concern is Banshees. Banshees are not something that, well, roaches or Zerglings can deal with, really at all. It's just a matter of time until the Banshees are able to take them out, but the roaches are spotted. Serral, 38 drones to 36 workers out of Clem. He's building 3 more at a time. He's soon going to have the economic lead, and that's not even including the mules. The Hellions goes into a Ravager cocoon, dodges the shots. The Zerglings looking for the surround. Where is the Banshee? Banshee coming out to help box out the roaches, but it looks like Serral knows what he's about. Already splits off one of the roaches. Ravager cocoon will come out at full HP. Grabs some of the Reapers on the way, and Serral not willing to sit back and play defense like he so stereotypically does. Clem drops down a new version of the depot, back to full HP, but here comes Serral. Mr. Zergachev, tear down this wall. But so far, the wall is holding. Corrosive bile. An engineering bay behind. The second layer is coming together, but this one, much more fragile. The Ravagers will break through. The Zerglings are in the base. The Marines are surrounded immediately. The boys are pulled, but too little and too late. the damage will be done. More roaches streaming across the map. 28 more Zerglings in production. The rush will continue as the tide of Serral rolls in. But the Banshees starting to whittle away at the Zergling count. Starting to chew up the roaches. 16 SCVs dead. More Zerglings getting in. The Hellions somehow managed to survive throughout all this. And more continually rallying out. But the Zerglings are back in the main. 2 Ravagers still alive. The factory itself can be removed from the field. We'll do so momentarily. Forced to lift. We'll land it down on the other side. But more Zerglings streaming into the base. Throwing out the corrosive bile. Stimpak may finish, but who's going to use it? Who will be left at the end of all this? The Ravagers are in the main. The Hellions have been helping out so much, yet not enough. The Banshees have been firing continuously, but there's simply too much Zerg. 3 command centers is still a lot to recover with. And despite all of this, despite all the damage that Serral has managed to do, he now has, well, more Zerglings get in. Some of them back off. He decides not to commit everything. Might be able to finish off some of the SCVs that were damaged in the last attack. Serral continually building Zerglings. More and more and more. As 18 more Zerglings in production. Clem, you can look at the worker count. 32. And with mules, actually puts them in a comparable position economically. Each of those mules were worth about 4 SCVs apiece, but a Nidus network's on the way. The Banshees, adding a lot. The Marines with their stim, all 4 of them, tucked into the core of the Banshees. And the Zerglings get in again. Many of those SCVs damaged over the repeated waves. Not enough time or money to repair. He tucks them in, drilling into the corner, using that mineral walk in order to stack them all up and make it very hard for the Zerglings to target any in particular. But there's more and more Zerglings. The damage does not stop here with the Nidus network on the way. The Queens, pushed around by the Reapers at the start, may finally get their revenge. And in the main base, a Nidus is on the way. The Zerglings, what he doesn't know can very much hurt him. Inside are the Queens, and they're back. We've arrived! And the Queens, their revenge. There's no cloak. There is cloak on the Banshees, but an Overseer is overhead. There's no way that can be taken down as the Queens are marching in from within Clem's own main. The monarchy reasserting itself, and creep from the Nidus as Serral claims game number 1 in commanding fashion. Shuts down the Reapers and Hellions, knocks out the wall, and breaks down the economy before overrunning everything with the units who were most wronged by Clem's harassment early on. A decisive victory to open things up for the finisher. Wow, Clem underestimating Serral's commitment. He's not known as a cheesy player. And honestly, I wouldn't even say that was much of a cheese. Just a timing and incredibly well executed. Clem knew it was coming from the time the roaches moved out of the base. Serral not trying very hard to hide it. There's not much you could do to hide it at all. So, Serral opens things up with a 1-0 victory, and Clem going to have to check himself before he gets wrecked himself. It really felt like the Banshee and Hellions. I think it was the split between roaches and Zerglings. I know that sounds like a sort of cop-out, but the fact that he was willing to split his Zerglings, he didn't always send them all in. He wouldn't put all his previous eggs in one basket to get roasted immediately, but just continually sending Zerglings in to keep the pressure on so Clem could never stabilize. Destabilizing the Terran, more valuable than doing a bunch of damage now. Because if Clem can re-wall off with the power of mules and the 3 command center production, even if Clem loses 20 more SCVs, if the aggression ends there, there's a pretty good chance he can come back and... Okay, well, apparently Clem doesn't care at all. I take it back. He's just like, you know what, how about the same thing, except this time I'll do it better. So much for my speculation. That throws off my train of thought. I really thought Clem would shy away from the Reaper build, at least for a couple games. But no, here we are again. Game 2 on Tokamak, and even on the worst side of the map, this is the side of the map where the add-ons will be exposed if he chooses to build them out there. I guess the adjustment would be a bunker. Just throw a bunker down if you see the roaches coming. Clem didn't expect Serral to break through that far. Otherwise, he would have added a bunker. Like, he was getting stim, he had Marines, but it felt like the Marines panicked when the Zerglings got in. Like, oh, that wasn't in the script. That wasn't supposed to happen. All right, I thought a wall was good enough to keep the Zerg out. Well, apparently not. Reaper comes across. The Overlord will spot it. Ooh. No, not now. I know. Yep, it's Reapers again. Serral tries for a third hatchery much quicker this time. He snuck the drone out, which means Clem should be able to get a little more done with the Reapers. And once he spots the third, he'll know that Serral just mathematically incapable of adding much to this. The delay of the third base last game kind of meant Serral had a stronger two-base economy. It's just it doesn't age well. Thankfully for Serral, Clem didn't age at all. Now, the Reapers. The three musketeers here. Queens. Just a quick sidestep of the grenade. Creep tumor laid down right as he comes in, but oh, the drones! Oh no. Another grenade bounces the queen out of the way, but fondly. Get off my creep. They killed 2 drones, Brenda. I know, Susan. Just let me have this. Hellions. And Clem with... Now we're going to see the split. Serral got the counter-aggression. He was effectively all in. If that doesn't do critical damage, Serral does not have the economy, the infrastructure, the tech to deal with it. But now, Serral is going with a much more reactive Zerg. He's going to sit back, he's going to build up drones. He has 3 hatcheries to build off of. He has the queens for inject and, well, pretty much everything else in the early game, but I digress. Oh, the Zerglings get us around. He splits off a couple. Subtle, but effective Zergling micro. I think that's Serral in a nutshell. Subtle but effective. Hey, he's not even that subtle. Like, it's just working smarter and not harder. Starport with Cloak Banshees on the way, the 2 racks at the back. Clearly angling for Marines to follow things up. Hellions. Oh, a lot of Zerglings. Gets a bit of a wraparound, but Juke's back with the Hellions. One of them gets caught. And Serral continually trying to draw fire in the most literal sense of the term. But, oh, I think Clem's got it. Serral not quite able to hunt down the Hellions. Body blocking and covering with another. Covering fire indeed. And Clem gets away with it. Serral tried to get a little cute, but you allowed Clem to micro as the only thing he's doing on the map. I mean, besides macroing perfectly behind, but... That's a lot of Zerglings. Serral's lost 30 Zerglings already. And each set of those Zerglings could have been a drone. So, in not killing off those Hellions, and not really delaying any sort of Clem's tech, he's cut into his own economy in a gamble effectively that didn't pay off. The Banshee finds an angle despite the Spore Crawler, which is more like a zoning mechanism as opposed to an actual damage-dealing option. Clem flipping over on the add-ons. Tech Lab Factory. Reactored Starport for the medevacs on the way. Stim to complement the Marines. Not just tell them to have a nice day and how handsome they are, but instead to allow them to shoot their guns and faster and run. Don't know how that works, but don't question it. I like the explanation. It's recoil control. Alright. Starting to think this game isn't realistic. Anyways, one of the queens. Hi. Just assassinated in the main, but the Banshees. One more knitting needle from the queens. Meanwhile, the Hellions are getting surrounded while Clem's dealing with the Banshees, so... Serral able to grab the Hellions now, and behind it, infestation pit, roach speed on the way. Will actually track the Hellion to the ends of the earth, and it will die there. Which leads... Wow. He just backs off? Hey! Oh. Saw the double medevac coming across. Clem is going for the main. Gonna try to dive into the heart of the swarm. The Lings finding some damage on the other side. Those few Lings left over from the Hellions. There's a siege tank in the main. The Spore Crawler that I think he dodged a drone into actually does some damage. And here come the Queens. This is restricted lair space by order of the Hatchery Owners Association. Brenda, not now. Not now. It's only game 2. We're gonna weird him out. Sorry. I blacked out for him. Cancels the 4th base. A very important part of the Zerg economy. Without the 4th base, you don't really have the larva to fill in the units you need, unless you're going straight to ultras. It isn't so much an economic thing at this point, but 2 infestors on the way. Good to see Scarlet's influence. Yes, I'm crediting Scarlet with the resurgence of mid-game infestors, as players realizing, especially against a limited amount of Marines and Marauders, with Roaches just being able to hold them down for any amount of time, because they're so limited anti-air. It is simply not economically feasible to go for Spire, just to kill a few medevacs. Vipers are a little better, but mostly it's a zoning thing. You have to keep the medevacs at bay and try to put a tax on them, on their HP. But if Serral goes for Spire, for Corruptors or Mutus, he gets run over by this exact push. As it stands, it's gonna be dicey. An Ultraless Cavern is on the way, but the Marines are already halfway across the map. A Fungal comes out, huge catch right off the bat. None of the tanks are sieged. Many of the Marines ripped apart, and no combat shield done. A huge catch by Serral, but 12 Marines at a time are stimming across the map. Working their way forward. How many more infestors? Not sure if they can follow it up. Another wave of corrosive bow. Marines trying to stand their ground, but still no combat shield done. Meanwhile, the Roaches and Ravagers holding for now, but reinforcements continually stimming forward. Serral, down 30 supply. He rushed up to Hive, and he just doesn't have the army on the ground to compete. And that's it. Slash GG, and GG come out. The Clempire strikes back, as Clem, with a decisive Marine tank timing, just cuts right through. And suddenly, we go straight into game number 3. Wow. Serral committed a lot to the Zerglings to kill the Hellions. He was deflecting the medevac harass, and then rushing up to Hive. He just didn't have a standing army. I don't think he recognized quickly enough. I'm sure he recognized by the end, but I don't think he recognized that Clem was committing to that mass barracks play. Probably an Octo-Rax timing. And that brings us, just like that, to game number 3, Ultra Love. Which, I love Ultras. Many Zergs love Ultras. But Serral, his love of Ultras may be costing him that last game. I think he was just into... You can't be a half step behind. Alright. You have to be at least slightly ahead of a Terran like Clem. Otherwise, any sort of force like that will start grinding you down very quickly. Yes, he'll lose 10 Marines, but the tanks get closer and closer. And without Vipers, without Hive Tech, it's almost impossible to deal with. Clem just hitting his timing. One decisive game for both sides so far. We're all tied up going into game 3. It's one of those that's hard to pinpoint where it went wrong. It's Serral committed to the tech so much earlier that there's no choice but to follow it through and hope you can defend. if he doesn't recognize the mass marine timing. So the weakness of that for Clem is if Serral does get hive tech, it's almost impossible to deal with. He doesn't even really have any tech labs on his barracks, so he's committed to mass marines. If a couple ultras with chitinous plating or a few vipers come out, no, you've got nothing. But they didn't, and he did. All right, just one Reaper this time around. See, I've never seen that. It's obvious yet effective. He sent 2 drones and made the SCV decide. Unfortunately, it cost him one of those drones, so blood for the blood god, but Serral just sends 2 drones and the SCV has like a mental breakdown trying to figure out which one to follow. Usually Zerg players like to take the triangle base just to have some more coverage of your main. Makes it less difficult to deal with drops and such later on. And is usually more defensible. Not always, but most Zerg, there's a reason maps are laid out the way they are. And for better or worse, maps are very similar. At least most of them are relatively similar and give you kind of an option for a third base. There's a preference, but most bases, the linear third and the triangle third, are a similar distance from one another. And most of that is because both Protoss and Terran will go from medium to great lengths to deny those bases. And if Zerg can't get a third base because there's only one option, they're just straight up behind, and it costs almost nothing to put them there. So that is the reasoning. There's a lot of other little details, but that's a big part of it. Roach Warren on the way quite early. Serral, maybe disillusioned with the macro idea. And, you know, after that experience, I wouldn't be... I wouldn't blame him too much. Now, that's more of a safety warrant. He's going up past 40 drones. That's, I'm gonna build 5-6 sloaches and make sure you don't get any closer to my drones here. Cloak Banshee on the way. We got the 111, the barracks, the factory, the starport. Destiny Cloud Fist build I heard in a fever dream at some point. I have a lot of those lately, I think, so. Lair. Okay. Mass roaches. Serral. Been... I don't think he's a fan of the Roach Hammer build. The Stefano style. Like and subscribe if you got that reference, and congratulations on being old. How's the back pain? Be mean. Be right, but don't be mean. Layers on the way. But the 200 supply Roach Ravager Smash, which can hit harder and faster, better and arguably stronger than the 8 racks tank timing. I don't think this map is particularly great for it, but he only has 1 evolution chamber. Building 3 more gases, driving back the Hellions. Banshee, politely yet firmly asked to leave. Not that the Terrans have ever been polite. This is awkward. Brenda, you remember when we could fly? Not now, Susan. Then when? Not now. Sorry. 2 Banshees. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, that... Oh, it was just Karen. Oh, this is a... Oh, no, it's bad. Oh, it's getting worse. Oh, the Hellions get into the main. The Queens are assassinated. The Banshees maybe take it out, but 7 drones dead. It's such a key timing. Serral forced to rebuild drones. The Banshee killed all 3 Queens. Oh, no. It's all coming apart. All these little things ripped wide open now. The Hellions charbroil in the mineral line. The Banshees brutalizing the Queens, and now still going to work on the 4th base. Serral, I think he's just given up on the idea of hitting a Roach timing, if that was the intent in the first place. He's got 2 infestation pits on the way. It is an unmitigated disaster. The Reaper! Oh my god. Oh, sweet Kerrigan. The Reaper in the main, forcing more spores in order to dodge the hits. His second infestation pit is gonna finish at this rate. The Reaper gets a kill. Clem is toying with arguably the greatest player of all time. Of course, Clem is his greatest rival. His Moriarty here. But, it is this... It's so easy for things to go slightly wrong for Zerg and start falling apart very quickly from there. And I don't think we've seen more of a, implosion from Serral in quite a while. It's not over. He has more drones. He's got infestors on the way from his 2 infesting. Wait, he canceled at the last second. Alright, he noticed seconds before it completed. But just the fact that he built them already tells you the level of stress he is under right now. As Clem is just laying it on him. And not in a fun way. Here we are. Tank push. The infestors are out, but look at that split. I can't believe it's not butter. Another fungal. Picks up. Ready to drop the base like it's Skrillex here, and now the queens gun down the top of the ramp. Oh, it's a massacre. Oh my. The Marines just going through the fungal too slow, cinematically behind, drops back out. It's raining men. Hallelujah. Oh. Clem continually keeping the pressure on. And Serral's surviving. Okay, it's not Ultralisk Cavern. It's another scenario. So, okay, hold. No, stop it. Highlander. Clem did not go for 2-2. All right, he tried. I think that was a bit of a mistake on Clem's part. Like, he was getting so much done that is something he missed a bit. He likely had the resources, just didn't start. Meanwhile, Serral, that Ultra Cavern, Adrenal Glands on the way. Adrenal Glands worth... Wow, he's getting Adrenal Glands and the +1 attack upgrade. But Adrenal Glands is worth more than an attack upgrade in and of itself. If you don't have it at Hive Tech, you're in deep shin. So the Infestor's in place. No Vipers on the way, but... whips out a wave of Corrosive Bile. The Banshee gets clipped by him, but not enough. Ultralisk in production. Chitinous Plate. This tank push jammed in underneath the ramp there. Spore Crawler finally knocks it out. Good set of fungals. Knocks out a siege tank. Roaches coming down, trying to draw fire. Corrosive Bile's knocking out some of it, but Clem is a 40 supply. He finally brought it all together, and the consolidated Terran army is looking like too much to handle. Serral, I think a lesser player would have lost the game already. Testament to Serral that it took that long. But Clem with another decisive victory, just pulling him apart from the inside out. And Clem takes the lead. It's so easy to be slightly out of position and have that spiral out of control. Rarely does it happen to Serral, but I think it was Raynor describing playing against Clem, where it feels like just flies buzzing around you at all times. Like there's always one, like mosquito, like little, just poke, 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 something there and there and there and there and there and there. Like, and you never, like, there's never a chance to just stop and think and set up your own sort of attack. He swarms you in a very Zerg-like fashion. I think that's part of the reason why Raynor is one of the only other players who can even keep up with him. Like Serral can face Clem on a strategic level, which I know sounds profound and fancy, and if you want more profound and fancy things, you can always like and subscribe. But a strategic level is in picking the right builds, the right timings, using the map. But on a tactical level, Serral can't keep up. Raynor can, though he struggles on the strategic side of things. Raynor is just as fast, arguably even more furious, but is less willing to switch his strategy entirely if needed. Like, he will try to fit that square peg in a round hole, and if the round hole isn't having it, well, we don't need to carry on this conversation any further, but let's put it this way. He's still winning. Like, you can't just keep building Zerglings right now. Yes, I can, and I will. What does Serral have for us? Maganatha. One of our most unique maps. Destructible rocks everywhere. They might as well just call it the Browder. And if you got that reference, you're even older than whoever I referenced last game. How's the new glasses? Just for reading, I know. And who reads nowadays? Maybe turn up the font on your phone and stop lying to yourself. You guys have phones. Third base will be taken. I still can't get over the double drone. That was my favorite tiny micro move, though, that I've seen in a little bit. Like, just admitting how annoying the Reaper SCV is and adapting to it. Queen pops out, pokes away at the Reaper. 2 command centers for Clem. It's gonna be a starport as well. Of course. But if we're going to have a drawn-out macro game, this is probably... This, Ley Lines, and Persephone are the 3 maps that almost always inspire those games. I'm not sure. So, Clem came from the winner's bracket. I believe he, instead of... I really like how they handled it, by the way. So usually, when a player comes from the winner's bracket, there's 2 options. One, they just start with a game, which I really don't like, because 1, it's annoying to explain to people who won't listen anyways, be like, okay, so he gets a game, and no. 2 is the double bracket solution, where you have like a best of 5, and if Serral won the first best of 5, we play another one. But if Clem wins one, then he just wins. I like that even less. So how apparently this was handled is Clem gets to veto 2 maps. Serral does not. And Clem gets first map pick. So, which actually is amusing because Serral won game 1. But I think the idea of map vetoes and control is enough of an advantage. And yes, if you come through the winner's bracket, you don't lose a series. You should get an advantage. But from a spectator and entertainment perspective, I think someone just starting with a game or even a series feels not great. So I think that's handled really well. And I fully endorse that idea for further major tournaments especially. Alliance. Lair's on the way. Banshee coming in. Cloak's not done, which means fully vulnerable to the queens now. Fourth base is on the way. Serral's got his queen defense teams. 3 queens apiece. Enough. Less than 3 queens and they're liable to get isolated and killed. Alright, queens travel in packs. It is known. Watch a documentary. I think there's one on Netflix called The Crown. Hydra Den. Hello there. That's a new one. Game 4, and the first time we're seeing a actual full-on sort of macro game. Double Evo Chamber, double NG Bay, already upgrading 1-1 for Clem. The Banshees trying to use that high ground, but more queens in the main. 9 of them on the field in total, scattered throughout. Both the defense, the economy, the infrastructure, and the charisma of the entire Zerg army. You're goddamn right. No, Brenda, no. Hey, but oh, the changeling stabbed in the back by the fusion cutter of the SCVs. Just trying to hang out. Not even like what info was he getting? That there was no army there, I guess technically. The Hellions and Banshees tag team in the Zerglings as they try to get us around on the creep. Serral doing his best to push it out, and Clem doing his best to keep it back. So far, just 1 Hellion has gone down. You know what? I'm glad. Back to the commentator perspective, which is the only perspective I seem to have nowadays. Like and subscribe. I'm glad we had the aggressive games, but now we're pulling back. Well, that is how these two seem to play. Usually, in their most recent series, it's been aggression, 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 and then we get a few macro games once they kind of exhausted their build orders. But both of them trying to grab a win or two early on before they settle down into what we both know they're capable of. Or they both know, and we know they both. Moving on. Infestation been on the way, but here comes Clem with the first Marines mines and the Hellions underneath. Queen, willing to take the hit, but doesn't have to. Slightly disappointed. No combat shield done means that the Hydras and Queen should be enough. I'm actually very surprised that Clem is fighting this at all. Yeah, sure, you kill some Hydras, but Hellbats, mediocre. Huh, that went really badly. He lost all the mines, 14 Marines. He killed 4 Hydras and a Queen. That was not a good trade for Clem. He did not have, like, he had an upgrade advantage, I guess, but the usual issue with the Zerg army is a lack of range DPS. That's what Terrans almost always have a monopoly on. All right? But in that scenario, there were enough Hydras and Queens that out DPS the Marines. So, Clem not really respecting it, and now Serral comfortably getting towards Hive. And there's that critical mess. There's 20 Hydras. And he doesn't want to fight heads up. He wants whatever he can get in front. Notably, not a single Bane nest. Well, usually you don't have more than one, but again, the Hydras hold the line. Clem underestimating them. Yeah, again. Huh. Not sure what he's expecting to get out of these fights. Well, he's trying to cut down on the critical mass of Hydralisks, but he's failing, is what's happened. It's odd to see Clem misjudge fights, though I might be misjudging his strategy. It feels like if Serral is able to take a fight and only lose a couple Hydras, he's going to do it. Like, he has enough. Meanwhile, on the right flank, the Hellbats. I feel like the Hellbats are just dragging morale of the whole team down. I am a Hellbat hater, all right? I'll put it out. I'm not going to be subtle about it. I don't think Hellbats are very good. I think they're good as a late-game army composition, but as part of any sort of timing, they're just dragging the whole team down. And now they will get ripped apart by several nanoseconds of time. Widowmine drop with drilling claws. I think Serral realized, but it was already too late. The fun of Widowmines. Nidus network on the way. Ooh! Infester! Over to the left side. Meanwhile, Clem over to the right. Widowmine's dragged out, but onto the speed zones. Hydras knock a medevac out of the sky. Serral is running on all cylinders right now. And whatever other geometrical shapes the Zerg need in order to maximize. Meanwhile, Clem adding ghosts into the composition. Another Widowmine drilling claws. He dodges it into a spine crawler. I do wonder why he picked spine and not spore. Just like, down goes another medevac. Well, I guess the spine crawler for defending drops in the future. Wow, Serral forward thinking even with his split-second decision making. Because a spine and the spore could defend Widowmine drops with a tag team combo. Nidus Worm to the north side. Marines and Marauders being chased down. The lurker count is already dangerous. Does he have lurker speed? No. That upgrade doesn't exist technically anymore, but he does have lurker range, which is what I meant. Adaptive talent is lurker burrow speed, but no longer gives basic move speed. A Nidus screams out. The Ghost trying to line up their shots, but the lurker's interrupting them. Another Widow Mine diffused. Baneling Nest is now on the way. Serral has done all this without Banelings, which makes it a lot cheaper. But the lurkers try to reposition, and the Ghost will take full advantage. Adaptive talents complete. Ooh, Widow Mine splashes over the top of some of the lurkers as well, but the Zerglings trying to come in. A single Infester looking to interrupt. Knocks out another. But the Command Center a bit optimistic, trying to land here down the center. Throws out the EMP. Catches the Infester, but another one comes up and grabs the Ghost. He's going to get a whole bunch of them out in the front lines. The Ghost dying dramatically all at once. Infester popped, but another Infester! How? The Serral Vesters just seem to show up when they're needed most. Lurker slicing through. Lands a couple shots, knocks out another Lurker, but the momentum of Serral continues to carry through into the third base. Widow Mine will land, knock out a Hydra, but the Zerglings starting to cut through the SCVs. One of the command centers already denied. The orbital command could be vulnerable to the Hydras. A double drop is being sent out. Surprising, there's been no attempt at a Nidus in the main yet, but still getting the damage done. Big Widow Mine hit takes out a chunk of the Zerglings. Another Nidus over to the left side. Serral being quite conservative, making sure he has Nidus to reposition, but not getting greedy by trying to go into the main, where it might cost him. Meanwhile, Clem managed to find an opportunity to counterattack. The double drop down the center. Hydra's move to defend. Hydra launch on the way. Serral moving forward, try to drag out the Widowmon hits. Will be successful. Down to 2-3 Overseers. More than enough. And the Ghosts are striking back. There's only 3 Lurkers left in this attack. He'll split, he'll stim, and he'll take down the rest. Clem holds the line. Wait. Okay. One more Lurker on the high ground. There's only 3 orbital commands. One of them is in the air. He literally doesn't have the scans. 1 casual infester. Serral didn't have burrow, which is a surprising situation, but he's getting it now. There's still no scan. This Lurker just going at it. Eviscerating everything in sight. Finally gets spotted out, but he's waited this... Serral only now adding in Banelings. And I think it's the right call. Like, he's finally... This is a finishing move from the finisher. He's done a lot of damage. Clem is in a very fragile position right now. And the Banelings may be enough to break him. A few Banelings trickling in, eating the Widow Mines alongside the explosions. And in the main base, the Nidus! Finally, he darts in and cuts through into the production, and Clem is going to have a doozy of a day trying to defend against this one. The timing on the Nidus is immaculate, and I have no idea how Clem defends both the planetary, the main, and everything else on the field. Serral, the maestro here, has set up a symphony of attacks, and the timing has been impeccable. Clem, with now 16 Ghosts on the field, most of them in the main, will survive and will be limited to them as another group of bio gets taken out. GG! Serral with a confident dismantling of Clem. He has all the tools at his disposal and disposes of the Terran in front of him. He's back on the board and hits the equalizer. 2 games to 2. What a finals. Oh no. It's time. Our 3-player map. Last Fantasy. Yes, for the first time in many years, we have a more than 2-player map in the pool. And not a 4-player, but a 3-player map. The most rare. And we've never gone above 4. At least, I don't think. So, wait, there may have been like a 8-player one at one point. At the beginning, like harder. Moving on. That was a really dumb one, though. It lasts like 1 season. Good for free-for-all. Moving on again. Keep moving. Oh, in the bottom left, we have Clem. In the east, on the 3rd day, it's Serral. And to the north is no one. An empty space, a blank canvas for either of these players to draw upon. I'm loving the split in this series. These are some full-bodied players here. And I'm not just talking about tasting some balanced wine, but instead, the willingness and capability at all stages of the game. We haven't yet seen the supreme late game, which both of them are capable of. But a whole lot of early aggression, mid-game, and then finally, we saw that full macro. I have no idea. I've seen like half a dozen games on this map. It almost always gets vetoed in smaller series. No pro gamer, or at least most pro gamers, don't want to play such a completely different map that is rarely practiced. With other style of maps like we talked about, you can kind of apply the same philosophies and strategies between them. There are little details of like where you're going to jam your siege tanks or where you're going to expand to a 5th base or stuff like that, but the basic builds are the same. But in something like this where, for example, Serral, his overlord is going to be a little on the later side, and the second overlord is completely off in the distance because he had to scout both locations. He actually scouted with the SCV, spotted the overlord, came back. I guess he went far enough to see the potential hatchery, or lack thereof. But Reaper gets straight into the main. In fact, Clem's natural is closer to Serral's main than any other base is going to have. Which, we'll see how that ends up for both players. Just something to point out. Tenlings on the way. It's the Reapers. Just unloading on the hatchery. Serral, not... Oh, it's even more. Oh, this is gonna get weird. So Serral is just counterattacking. This is not a good side of the map for add-ons. The Zerglings. Clem. The Zergling speed is not done. The Reapers will likely take out the hatchery. The engineering bay behind the add-on. The other one is tucked in on the outside. The Zerglings are breaking through. The Reapers are scrambling back to defend. I don't think he's going to break through the engineering bay in time. But the Reapers do have to be careful as the Zerglings are moving to intercept them on the way back home. So rebuilt, he canceled and restarted the 3rd base. But this is not going to break through. Oh, does the game just end? Serral doesn't just leave. But... Ooh. 22 drones. He has enough Zerglings to keep the Reapers off the map now. But he did not break through. It would be incredibly cliche to just go for a Baneling nest. But at the same time... He's built... Yeah, he's mining 3 in gas at a time. What's it gonna be? Another gas? Dare I dream? Oh, it's just Banelings again. Yeah, there's the Bane nest. I was thinking Mutas, but then I dispelled it from my mind, lest I get upset that it's not. Because it was very unlikely. He's hiding the bait. He's putting the Bane nest as far away physically from Clem's base as he can. Like, this is the most obvious possible play here. But, it's also the highest percentage one, because his economy is just way worse than Clem's. Not even the worker count here, but the fact that there are mules, the fact that Clem already has all this infrastructure, he's already invested in tech, the engineering bay he walled off with is upgrading +1. 9 banelings. There's already going to be a lot of Marines. But even more Zerglings. 40, 50, 55. Oh, he sees the Banes. Oh, Clem, engineering bay wall. They'll inspect some of us in the wreckage. Oh no, the alarm bells, batten down the hatches. The engineering bays across the board, the grenades to delay. He may not even break through the depot. He does. Serral, no, he's broken on the gates. And Clem will go to match point. He spotted it. That entirely relied on keeping Clem in the dark until the banelings were literally hitting the wall. But Clem, very aware of it, more than happy to shut it down. And here we are. Clem now 1 game away. These two. At least it isn't the 5-0 stomp that we saw at the World Cup last year. Serral has adapted, but still Clem getting the better end of things. Game 6. Leyland. Oh, Serral. Getting baited into the mass Zerglings. I don't know how much of it was trying to end it quickly on that map, because having your main base exposed to medevac drops from that angle as time goes on, it doesn't get easier as a Zerg. It's very difficult, and I am almost certain that he was trying to avoid that scenario. The concern will not be nearly as great here on Leyland. In fact, this is probably our most played, one of the few carryovers from the last map pool. It seems to be the least offensive map to anyone. I feel like it's played in every single series. Best of 3, best of 5, best of 69. Well, you'd probably play it 17 times at that point, but it's just worked out. Neither side has a distinct advantage. Like, Terran can get 4 bases relatively easily, but Zerg, with good control, can take even more. So, neither player going to feel super pressured to end the game by a certain point, though they can, I'm sure. Clem respecting the danger Serral poses. And mixing in a lot of the Reaper build, which we haven't seen that much of from Clem or anyone else, or its progenitor, and Clem's metaphorical father, Bellum. I mean, not almost old enough to be, but like 10 years older. It's kind of great. Like, Bellum ran so Clem could sprint, is how it feels. It took some years. Like, Bellum is still playing the same way he did. You can't even take that gas canister if you're trying to dodge. Oh, he's looking for proxies? What the... Around the world with the drone. Bellum, the man who got the Reaper not nerfed not once, but twice. Originally, the Reaper grenade did 10 damage on a 7-second cooldown. Zerglings have 35 HP, which meant 4 Reaper grenades you could wipe out a Zergling, let alone the fact they could attack. Okay. So, originally it got nerfed to do less damage. So, Bellum just made more Reapers. And then the cooldown got nerfed. So, Bellum kept making more Reapers, but that seemed to be enough to keep it from being the best build in 90% of scenarios. It's still very good, obviously, but Zergs have adapted. It just, if you get off to a poor 16 Zerglings on the way. Hold! We don't need to pontificate any further. No more anecdotes. No more time filling. No more begging for likes and subscribe. Okay, I can't commit to that, but it's a Zerg rush. Serral is putting his whole tournament on the line right now. 16 Zerglings. Didn't work last game. This game, it's a bit different. He surrounds a Hellion on the field and tries to escape. It's not going to be enough. Another Hellion. Also not going to be enough. One Hellion is not enough to stop this. And the Zerglings, the rest of them slip by. Another Hellion is caught. And a second one will be coming out as he goes in the streets of the main and blocks out the Zerglings. But even more SCVs will go down. Clem reacts quickly. And Serral, trying to get the wrap around, but the Hellion slips by. So, not great, not terrible. Loses only 6 lings. He gets 1 Hellion. Forces the Hellions back. Oh, he's waiting in the trees. The vision blocker. Right on the other side, the Zerglings. Able to surround another one. Serral playing it like a bit of a horror movie right now. The thing is, this is much different than last game. Serral built these Zerglings later with a clear intent just to keep the pressure on. Sure, he would have loved to kill 12 SCVs. Who doesn't? Ideally at the very start of the game, but that's not going to happen. So instead, keeping the threat out there, and by keeping the Hellions back, he allows the Queens to potentially get more creep spread, though it doesn't seem like they've made huge progress on that. More Zerglings in the natural, and this time around, the patience pays off. As there's nothing back at home, Clem scrambling back with the Hellions again. Gonna lose several SCVs this time as he tries to mineral walk back and forth, avoid as much damage as possible, but he's still going to take a whole lot of it. And now Serral is up 20 drones. That was what was needed. Well, Serral was up 20 drones, and then he built like 8 buildings and is now less. But he's building 4 more gas geysers. Baneling Nest, Evo Chamber number 1, Evo Chamber number 2, 4th base. So Serral builds a wave of drones, uses that, and that's part of the danger or difficulty of Zerg. And what Serral's so good at is larva management. Okay? He's the vice president of larva management in the executive Zerg suite. And that's just how it is. It's not flashy, but it pays well. Alright? Plenty of benefits. Hellions taken out. And would you... Brenda, remember when we could fly? Susan! How many times? This is the 3rd time today! Why are you counting? I don't... Sorry. Hydra Den on the way. And Clem now in a precarious position at best. Serral can't kill him. Well, it would be a massive risk to try to kill him. But Serral is ahead, make no mistake. And even if he does make 1 or 2, it's still a pretty comfortable position. He's going to have Bane speed. 1-1 on the way. Infestation pit is halfway done. Creep spread starting to metastasize. What did he just cancel? He canceled the infestation pit to make a Hydra Den? Wait, what? What? ¿Por qué no los dos? Well, interesting. Not sure about that one. And here comes Clem, jams that tank into the low ground location as far as possible away from Lings and Banes, though not invulnerable to them. That 4th base under fire, already in the orange. Zerglings come down, but that leaves the Banelings on their own. And the Marines, easy pickings. Clem, I think, kind of fumbled that attack a bit. Tries to protect the tank, but actually, he was scared of the Banes, tried to protect the tank, picked up the Marines, but missed an opportunity to get a bit more damage done. He knows he needs to get something. He needs to keep the pressure on because it's just going to get easier for Serral to crush these attacks if he doesn't. Serral has 78 drones. He's going to have 5 bases. The only thing he's missing is that infestation pit that he canceled for some reason, and I'm still confused about. But another tank going to siege up in that wall-off location, literally walling off the Lings and Banes, and that's the reason it's used so often. The Marines forced back into the medevacs. So, where's that infestation pit? He's getting the Hydras. He's looking to consolidate. There's a few Banes sneaking through on the other side, but the Banshees and Siege tanks back at home will defend. There's no reason not to have it. I think he may not have noticed that he didn't rebuild it. There's 500 gas in the bank. I'm getting concerned. Oh, Clem continues hitting this angle. Serral acutely aware of it, but not much else to be done. And Clem gonna just be leaning on the Marines and medevacs. Targets down a few more. I mean, drugs, guns, and a hatred of illegal aliens will get you pretty far with the Terran or some of my neighbors. But 3 more barracks on the way. There's the infestation pit from Serral. But his hive is going to be pretty far off. So there will be full production from Clem. He's made it up to 72 SCVs and counting. No 4th command center on the way, and that's because it's done and is landing at the 12 o'clock. Fake medevac sent out. Maybe just joining up with the rest of the army, but keeping Serral busy. He does not have any anti-air besides the Hydras and Queens, well, and Spores, but nothing to chase down the medevacs at the moment. It's always a very dicey option, as we covered before. Almost impossible to make a Spire worth it, even if you do knock down the medevacs. Your actual standing army. What is that? Is that supposed to be drill? What? He's getting Magfield Accelerator? He already has drilling claws. Maybe he just rolled his hand across the keyboard. But here we go. Serral collapsing on the siege tanks. We'll rip them apart and knock out any Marines left behind. Another army in the bottom right corner. Here comes Clem with another wave, keeping the creep spread at bay. Serral has not been able to extend it out as far as he'd like, but so far it's keeping Clem busy. Widowmines cut both ways. There's no upgrade advantage for Clem. No, the Queens! Oh, the Frenchman with a revolutionary tactic, slaughtering the Queens. Doesn't get all of them, but will slow down the creep spread even further. He's done such a great job of keeping Serral back despite the losses earlier. Just projecting onto the map, keeping the creep at bay. Serral has not been able, despite the fact Serral had 5 bases and has been maxed out, he has not been able to really do any sort of counterattack. Now, does he even want to? With a lurker den done, hive about to complete? At this stage, just keeping Clem back until he can get lurker seems to be the intent. Deals with the Widowmons. Clem retreats back past the trees. And for now, he still has enough army to continue forward. He replaces part of that army with ghosts. Widowmons across the board. Lurker range is in production. And the lurkers are the goal. Okay, the lurkers against the Marines, the Marauders, the Mines, the Medevacs, the Magos, the M&M composition. Eventually, against ghosts and fasters and banelings and all that, adrenal glands on the way, but lurkers force the issue, as we've already seen. Nidus is on the way. Clem, though, starting to build up the Iron Bank. He's got 3 command centers on the way. He's already got 4, 5 bases mining. Serral doing pretty great himself, let's be honest here. The pressure is on both sides. Clem 1 game away from the championship. Serral 1 game away from losing it. That will continue until the end of this series either way. That's how it works. I know how to do math, all right? Count on that. The Widowmines unburrowing. 3 infestors in production. Does he have burrow? No. See if he notices. But Clem is starting to grab more of the map for himself. As we move towards the center, the army is very dangerous. Fusion Core is on the way. As Clem looking for those late game starport upgrades. Advanced ballistics, Liberator range, Caduceus reactor, Medevac energy regen. I'm describing the upgrades. Those aren't separate upgrades, by the way. It's just the names don't really tell you much. I don't even remember. I feel like, yeah, Adaptive Talons, and I honestly, Seismic Spines is the name of the Lurker range upgrade. Burrow's on the way, the first Nidus. The Banshees are still alive and could probably, I believe Banshees can kill a Nidus before it completes. 2 of them. Not by much, but as long as he reacts quickly enough. A lot of players have been leaving Nidus defense teams back at home especially since Clem is otherwise suffering from success at 200 supply and doesn't have reinforcements coming out of the barracks. There's the Spire. Corruptors likely on the agenda. Very notably, no Vipers out of Serral so far. Slams down another Widow Mine. Both players dueling. Serral has more in the bank. He's got a huge income. But Clem has full production. He's filling in those upgrades. And now we gotta start thinking about less winning fights and more winning the war. The way that usually happens is, one, Serral gets such a decisive fight. He kills, usually with the help of Fungal, a critical mass of ghosts, and then just runs over the field. Two, he focuses on hammering 1 or 2 bases in order to deny those locations and force Clem to defend them. Those are usually going to be the right side if Clem ever takes the north, but we're looking at the 9 o'clock and the 12 o'clock. Those outlying bases. The center maybe as well, but that's actually a pretty easy place for Terrans to defend. So now we're kind of shifting gears. I have to do it mentally as well. It's a whole different philosophy. We're fighting for the end game as opposed to the next fight. That is going to be an economic war. Logistics. 9/10 of the relevant parts here. The other 10th is, the war. Changelings helping out. Infestor, you can see sneaking around. The Serral Fester always seems to be where it needs to be when it does need to be there. And without a Raven, Raven's very unreliable. Though having scans, more scans than a Costco checkout in the late game is not unheard of. There's already 8 orbital commands, the Ocho. Enough scans to pretty much coat the entire map simultaneously. The Infester's trying to sneak by, and there's no turrets in range, and he pops it up. He throws out the Fungals, but he gets into the medevacs in time, which means the Ghost will be able to evacuate, but Serral just hammers the point home again and runs over the base down the center. Clem retreats back. And on the right side, Lurker slicing through one of the command centers, 5 Liberators at a time. Ghosts line up the shots. And Serral, still with the bank. He's grinding through. But once again, we're playing the bean counter phase here, where it's really the resources. We're going to give Clem the benefit of the doubt and say he's not going to lose all of his ghosts to a single Fungal. But, well, that Infestor, he scans on top of his own army. The Hydras will knock out many of the Liberators. The medevac counts is so high I can barely tell what's happening underneath. But it's enough for now. Serral will recharge. The creep extending over the majority of the map at this point, though not too far into Clem's territory. Another Nidus in the main will be dealt with. And it really comes down to those Fungals. Yes? What? No, you said fun, gal? Not today, Brad. I'm just saying. Sorry, I blacked out for the Infestors. Almost impossible to spot underground if they're not moving. Infestor sign is actually relatively easy to see if you're looking for it, but there's so much going on, so many units overhead. A Venn diascan across the board. 9 orbital commands. Clem is now just focusing on holding 1 or 2 mining bases at a time. He can't hold the combined strength of the Zerg across the board. His army's not mobile enough. It's not strong enough. Unless he has everything concentrated. He has the Liberators to cover for smaller amounts of units and Infestors. He has the Ghosts spread out, but still in the fight. If he doesn't have those things, there just seems to be an Infestor everywhere. There's one here. I wouldn't be surprised if there's somehow one in Clem's base. Another attack down the center. Meanwhile, Serral, there's 4, 5 command centers on the screen, so gotta be careful using too many banelings to take him out. Another orbital will take a... He'll pick it up off the shelf and slap it right back down. Quite a supply of command centers, somewhat puns intended. Serral's at 92 drones. Greedily mining through pretty much the entire map. Where Clem has settled into this defensive posture. The Infestor pops up. He grabs 5, 6 of the ghosts. He might have enough for another one. Parasitic Bomb wombo combo over the top. And the ghost will be saved by the medevac at the last moment. How many did he get? Over the last minute, he's killed 4. Clem has killed 1. So 5 ghosts dead. Serral ends up losing. Not too much, actually. Just Zerglings and 1 Infestor. If he can trade 1 Infestor for several ghosts each time, well, that's worth it. The Infestor only 25 more gas. So Clem coming back with much of his army. It's just the chokehold. Another one! The fungal comes out. Clem lining up the shots. He's got a whole musket line of ghosts. Almost as many ghosts as the time the game named after him has been canceled by Blizzard. The Zerglings get behind the lines to the north. Another Nidus on the way. Serral, 6,900 minerals or gas in the bank. A very nice number. His army is only 2,300 gas. It's pretty much... Well, he's got 3 Infestors, 16 Hydras, 28 Banes, and a couple Vipers. Serral's onslaught continues. And Clem's best hope at this point is hold so incredibly efficiently that Serral runs out of money. But the fact is, he's not... Serral has handled this near perfect. He's lost a couple thousand more gas, which, in the grand scheme of things, is perfectly acceptable. It's not about being cost-effective, it's about being effective. And if Serral ends up mining 3 more bases, that's 12,000 more gas right there. So... And right now, I say that's not a hypothetical. Serral is mining from 3 more bases. Maybe more, arguably. And 2 of them are what Clem would be expected to have. The Ghost coming right over the top of the Infestor. Obviously, you don't want to be right on top of the units or they'll kill you the moment before. Scanning forward to try to deal with this. Another... He just keeps hitting the main base with the Nidus. That Overseer back there. The Infestor, he just scans on top of himself periodically. Yep, there's an Infestor there. Here come the Hydras, the Lings, the Banes again. Drags out a Widowmine, but drags in the Liberators. And the Hydras will take them down. Another wave, more mines. That one hit a lot of the Banelings. Clem forced to lift again. Serral has passed the 5-digit mark. 11.8 thousand minerals. 8,200 gas. He's at 20,000 resources in the bank. Looking almost like his bank account at this point. I think it's higher than that, but... Oh, the EMP is fungal mediocre. But Serral refills for another round. He's lost 500 Zerglings, and he'll probably do it again before the end of this. We're approaching a record level of money in the bank. I don't know if I've ever seen more than 15,000. That's almost an entire base of minerals. In fact, I think that's an entire base of minerals. And it's not like they've been sitting there idle. All right. 1,100 units, 70,000 resources lost in just over 20 minutes. Which is not the highest rate I've ever seen. That still goes to Clem versus Raynor, where they lost almost 100,000 in 20 minutes, which is just an impressive feat. But Serral with a much more calm and calculated chokehold. Those drones, where are they going? Some changelings in the main. Another Nidus. He finally gets in with a Nidus. The Liberator's over the top. Zoning for now. Widowmine's finding a lot of damage. But as soon as Serral notices, diffusing the rest. Clem's army is 21 ghosts, 14 liberators, 13 liberators, 14 widow mines, 8 medevacs, and a dozen marines. Oh yeah, also 26 SCVs. 174 army supply, but nothing in the bank compared to Serral with another couple games in the bank. The banelings roll in. Another fight. And overall, well, in the last 2.5 minutes, Serral has destroyed, wow, 2,000 more gas. I don't even care about the minerals anymore, and clearly Serral doesn't either. 128 Zerglings in the production tab. And he's still got over 10,000 minerals. Yanking in more liberators. He got a Spire, and he's got +3 flyer attack on the way, but Serral knows that as soon as he starts investing in Corruptors, the game will slow down. Because you can't throw away Corruptors. Okay, well, we're slowing the game down then, as 10 Corruptors in production, and an Ultralisk Cavern begins. Serral's going for the end game now. It's not that he's given up on the Hydraling Bane, but I think at this point he recognizes diminishing returns. There's a difference between giving up and making a calculated decision. We see a lot of Zerg players, I think Raynor kind of standing out, as eventually just deciding, okay, fine, I'm going Spire, I'm going Vipers or late game army. No, Serral, with an entire army and then some in the bank, has decided now is the time to make the transition, to lay down the finishing blow. He has been ahead for 20 minutes, and he continues to be so. But this is the most dangerous time for Serral since, really, he got to Hive. He is now shifting into the Corruptor Ultralisk composition. This entire army is even more vulnerable to ghosts. The Widowmine's still funding a lot of damage. There is a risk here, despite the danger that Ultralisks and Corruptors can pose to the composition that Clem has. They are also great targets for the ghosts. He hasn't built any Ultras. Clem building command centers, maybe a bit greedily so. Parasitic Bomb, but the Corruptors are wiping out the Liberators now. A clear effort as the Banelings chase the ghosts to the ends of the earth. A lot of the ghosts. Clem hitting 2,000 APM, dragging those snipes. Clem's at an average of 550 APM to Serral's 480. And wait a second. Well, now we see what happens when your army is mostly Corruptors. It looks like Clem will actually strike back for the first time. That is the third hatchery he's taken out this game. It's like a fourth one potentially on the agenda in the bottom right corner. Wow. Is there Neural Parasite? No. There is a missile turret, though, it seems, as the Infestor gets taken out. The Corruptor's gonna wipe out another wave of Liberators. Serral dropping under 10,000 minerals in the bank for a moment. The Hydras and Lings, the Banelings as an explosive shield in order to zone out. An Ultralisk joins in the fray. The Ghost, though, still an existential threat. Clem at 150 supply and he can't get any more. Banelings, I think he targeted that Widowmine. Made sure it got the best hit possible. Another hatchery goes down. Serral can build, I think, literally 30 more, so he's not too worried about that. It adds up, but slowly. Clem refuses to die. The Porcupine, making it so difficult. Widowmines and Liberators, two of the most difficult units to dismantle quickly and cost effectively. You can get rid of them, but if you're not careful about it, it will cost you. And Serral doesn't gain this much money in the bank by throwing units away. Here come the Ultras. Fungal, not really finding a lot of success. The Planetary holding things at bay. He does have building armor, though no high-sec auto tracking. Banelings rolling in. Clem down to 22 SCVs. Infestor burrowing by. Actually, I don't know if he spotted it with the scan, but the Corruptor's wiping out another Liberator. Clem now only slightly ahead on army supply. Serral's bank is starting to dwindle as he's mined out of most of the bases. There's still plenty to go. He's mined 83. He's mined 22,000 more minerals. And 6,000 more gas. He's lost 14,000 more minerals. But only 800 more gas. The math is not adding up for Clem. But he refuses to let Serral just claim a victory. And honestly, when you have 14 ghosts and 7 liberators, Serral's army is currently worth 8,300, which is almost exactly what he has in the bank. So, one particularly terrible fight, which is very, very easy to do against this army composition. And Serral's bank is gone. So it's not out of, it's never out of reach with this many ghosts. It's getting more and more desperate, but one of Clem's most iconic games. Well, maybe this one. The Infestors kind of scattered throughout. Ultras lining up the shots. Banelings trickling through to interrupt. Widowmines helping out. The Ghosts are pushed entirely away from the fight. The Corruptors will wipe out the Liberators. And the Command Center... Clem has less SCVs than he started with. Just using the Banelings as that shield in order to keep the snipes away. Just lines up another massive volley of snipes. Using the rapid fire. Drop over on the left side. Clem actually split off some of his army supply to deal with this. And, whoa, a medevac gets blasted into the lava. With all hands. Dropping mules. He's down to 11. Okay, I'm sorry. He's down to 11 orbital commands. Ah, yes. He has more orbital commands than he has SCVs. Which, you know, is not the worst place to be. But at 126 supply against a Zerg who seems to refill again and again, like this is the heart of the swarm cinematic. There's no starport units left, no medevacs overhead. The ground army is being overrun. The last liberators are wiped out of the sky by the Corruptors. The Ghosts will retreat, but another command center will be ripped apart. A hatchery in the top left corner, kind of the B plot over here, though. Stuff like this is necessary if Clem was ever to drag this back. But it feels almost completely impossible at this point. The Zerglings, the Queens! Get off my creep! A very bold move from the Queen. Serral has lost 1,187 Zerglings. And he's getting to the point he can't build too many more. But Clem dropping mules, actually almost bringing the income even. The Mule Mountains being built. Clem is down to 3 SCVs. It's at this point, I must remind you, in order to win a game of StarCraft 2, you must kill all your opponent's buildings. And in order to do that, against Terran, you have to have anti-air units. Which, thankfully, Serral does. The Corruptors will wipe out the Liberators. Parasitic Bomb knocks out a medevac with Ghosts inside. Command Center incidentally killed. And Clem down over 100 supply. It appears we're going to game number 7. We're going all the way. Are you prepared to go all the way? Now, if you got that reference, hopefully you enjoy Artosis' stream. And the mental health crisis demonstrated there. Infester pops up to rip apart those last Marines. One survive. Go tell your friends what happened here. No. Serral, after 33 minutes, after 1,200 Zerglings, after 150,000 resources, Serral, with all the upgrades, money in the bank, eventually smothers Clem, drowns him in a sea of Zerglings and Banelings and everything else, and brings us to game number 7 of the Bellum Gens Elite Stara Zagora Championship. You couldn't script anything better. It all ends here. Even if it's a draw, I'm just saying. Well, then we'll just regame on the same map. It will be torches where the fire ends. Game 7. Serral able to drag it to the very final game. Keeping control. It's so... I cannot stress how stressful it is for Zerg to play in that scenario. Yeah, it's very stressful for Terran as well. Okay, I got it. But how many Zergs, not named Serral, have we seen throw a lead of that magnitude? Several. Okay, and we probably didn't see the rest because they didn't make it far enough in tournaments to be here. But I know who gets the views. But he holds on to the lead, and Clem is never able. Clem, the player who is by far the best at finding the tiniest angle to break out of, unable to claw back after over 30 minutes. And imagine, well, now it comes down to one game. After all of that, after all the fire and fury, some things are just worth fighting for. Game 7. The top right, Team Liquid's Clem. In the bottom right, Team Basilisk Serral. France versus Finland. Terran versus Zerg. Like and subscribe. Let's see. This is a close air distance map. The SCV popping in, seeing the hatchery timing. Serral with the quick hatch timing. Making sure he gets queens out in a timely fashion. The Reaper. Ooh, maybe not timely enough. Almost gets the drone. Forces the double extractor in order to dodge the hits. Serral gets the third hatchery past the mineral wall. Snuck it out. Clem looking for it. But the Zergling snuck by on the other side and will be able to slightly delay the command center. The Reaper not coming back to defend because Clem understands it's just 2 Zerglings, so a single SCV and the Marine enough to box it out. Slight delay, but no panic out of Clem. It's such a split. Like, nowadays, you expect perfection out of Clem, but that was his biggest issue for many years. It was only when he finally beat Serral at DreamHack Atlanta a couple years ago that it seemed like Clem had turned a corner and found the confidence that everyone, like, almost every player, pretty much every player agreed Clem, arguably the best skilled player in the world. But he couldn't find those results at LAN tournaments. He'd always just do some sort of crazy all, and he just clearly would not be confident enough to follow it up. But now, he's the favorite, arguably in everything, in any matchup. Even against Serral. It's quite a thing. He's truly come into his own. And on top of that is our first player who actually plays 2 races. Not just as a gimmick, but as a strategy. Proving that Protoss versus Terran is the preferable option to Terran versus Terran. And you know what? I prefer it, as mirror matchups simply don't get the views. Proven time and time again. It'd be interesting if tournaments started forcing that as a, well, if those Protoss had to learn how not to play PvP in 90% of online tournaments, they'd be very upset. Hey, Evo Chamber block. Serral, clever move there. Didn't mine out enough of the mineral wall to let the Hellions through. Looks like we're going to be going with the more contained version of this map. Both players seem intent on expanding to the eastern side, which is effectively walled off by the Zerg rocks, which bleed out after 8 minutes, unless you actually creep spread to them, because technically they're just Zerg buildings off creep. Though you can't heal them. They're neutral Zerg. So, friendly Zerg cannot take advantage of that. You know, maybe they should be able to heal them. What about that? What about neutral locations that Zergs can transfuse? Now is not the time for speculation. It's game 7. Though, so far, it's been relatively quiet. 2 Zerglings and an Overlord just taken down. And Clem is lining up a medevac timing, whereas Serral, with only 62 drones... Oh. Seems very intent on the Roach and Ravager. Well, no Ravagers yet. I'm just assuming there will be. Seems like he's going to get aggressive. He can go directly across. There is quite a choke point down the center of the mixed gold base, which has, well, whoever can claim it. But a very quick and dangerous Roach time. Clem has not, 1, he has not built Banshees. 2, he has not really slowed down the economy at all. Hellion will get into the main and confirm that this is what he suspects. He's gonna see the Roaches. He sees the lack of any other tech. The gas is at the 3rd. Oh, and he's taking it very seriously. Multiple bunkers on the way. Combat shield will be done, but 1-1 is still pretty far off. Serral is opting for +1 Carapace. So that's just to tank as many hits as possible, ideally from the tanks themselves. But as Roach speed finishes and +1 Carapace not too far behind, I think Serral is gonna get aggressive. The scouting medevac gonna take down the Zerg rocks here. That medevac, not real. Well, it is real. It just has no intent on dropping. He's just trying to keep track of this army. Serral opening up as much opportunity as possible. Forcing Clem to think about defending multiple fronts. But he goes with the closest one. 2 bunkers on the way. And here comes Serral with everything on the line. The queens, the boys are pulled. The bunkers will hold just for a few seconds, but allowing the tanks to get a lot of damage done. The SCVs will be slaughtered on the front line, but the Roaches are being thinned out. Marines dodging back. The Roaches and Ravagers now in range of the tanks, but the tanks have been in range of the Roaches and Ravagers the whole time. Enough to drive them back. Only 1 tank. The field runs red with the blood of both sides. The Queen's here to take their revenge. 21 SCVs dead. But most of the tanks survived. The medevac's still intact. The Roaches and Ravagers with no more upgrades on the way. It's still anyone's game. And 1-1 is now done for Clem. It gets a little bit easier to deal with the Roaches and Ravagers, but he doesn't have that overwhelming number of Marines, the critical mass he needs in order to do anything else. The Queen's tanking a lot of the damage, forcing the splits back with the corrosive bile. Siege tanks getting a few cheeky hits in. 3 siege tanks on the back line. Serral regroups. The creep spread almost touching the command center. Clem clearly thinking about trying to snipe it off, but it's a futile endeavor at this point. 3 Ravagers sneaking around to the south. They're actually in range of the tank, potentially. He's gonna go for it. Fires off a volley. That siege tank will be sniped off from the side. Great presence of mind from Serral. Clem will split off a lot of his Marines to potentially deal with this, which opens up an opportunity for Serral to either cut them off or go for the main attack. And a lot of the Marines will be forced back. Partially, I think a mistake out of Clem. And now Serral gonna break through with even more Ravagers. But he didn't actually take out the tanks with the volleys. Finally does so, but he lost a lot of Roaches and Ravagers in the process. Another dozen Roaches on the way, but 6 SCVs dead. Clem down 10 workers. 2-2 is on the way. If that finishes and Clem still has an army, he's gonna have such an advantage. It might not even matter. But Serral's still up 30 supply. He's knocking on the door and Clem barely able to come up with an answer. There's no follow-up tech here. A +1 ranged attack, a second Evo chamber. Serral thinking about maybe transitioning out of this, but it is almost impossible to do so. The moment he lays off the gas, Clem will be boosting across the map with medevacs, and Serral doesn't really have the army to deal with that. He needs to keep on the aggression. A single Ravager, a single set of corrosive biles trying to dodge it. He does so, chasing down the Ravager, but the Marine's slightly out of position. That's enough for Serral to pull the trigger. Boys pulled off the line yet again. Serral continues pushing forward. +2 Carapace on the way, +1 ranged attack. Some Zerglings being added in to maybe thin out the tank shots. But 2-2 upgrades are nearly complete. Even though the creep spread is most of the way across the map, this Terran army is incredibly cost-effective. He has 13 medevacs. Nearly a medevacs for all policy. Burrow is on the way as well, as he has a lot of bruised Roaches. Did he get an infestation pit? No. Potentially tunneling claws. There's the infestation pit. And now Serral knocking on the door. The depots are raised, but the wall will be torn down. Reminiscent of game number 1. What a bookend here. Tunneling claws on the way. 190 to 157 supply, but 2-2 is done. Clem with an incredibly cost-effective Terran army. Serral with more army supply and some of the least supply-effective units. Clem hard supply blocked as Serral keeps ripping down the depots. But now the momentum has shifted. This positioning is, oh my, the hot gates here. The Roaches and Ravagers crumbling under the overwhelming damage. Clem tearing through everything in the front. More Roaches coming in, gonna try to split the stims, boxing out for the tanks. We'll take out 1 or 2. Zerglings wrapping around, drawing tank fire into themselves. And Serral pushes it back. It's enough for now. He takes out 1 set, almost gets the other tank. 1 HP, or close enough. It's not enough. The infestors are out, Roaches and Ravagers. Serral's working on a hive. Clem is working to make sure he doesn't get anywhere close. A 4th command center is landing at the gold while under fire. In almost a literal sense, it looks like that tank is on fire, but that's just one of the doodads here on torches. Infestors, the siege tanks firing off a volley. We'll be able to knock out another tank. Clem sees the the SCVs repaired the tank before it became relevant. Infestors throwing out fungals. Not really landing them, not in the way they need to. Clem down to a 1 upgrade advantage as Serral catches up, but even supply favors the Terran here as he continues working his way through. Serral, by the skin of his weird Zerg teeth, is holding on. The tunneling claws are revealed. I'm not sure if Clem registered it. He's not building turrets back at home. Maybe thinking Serral wouldn't split off Roaches. I don't think he's realized the tunneling claws are a threat. So Serral, despite his back being against his own wall, finding an opportunity to potentially do some counter damage. As Clem is now taking out the hatchery. Serral's down to 3 bases as Clem is on 4, but the SCV is in the main, and the natural now paying the price. The gold base is mining. Clem is taking the income lead for now, but 9 more SCVs dead. Marines trickling out. Not enough to deal with the Roaches. Clem moving forward. Siege tanks will siege up, but the bro move Roaches will scurry out of the way just in time. Roaches and Ravagers again as Serral forced into a choke point of his own design. That mineral wall was not fully mined out. Clem working on 3-3 upgrades. Though Serral, does he have any Vipers? No! 15 Ravagers. The burrow move Roach is still finding damage. Clem at 46 SCVs, Serral at 56 drones. What a game 7. +3 infantry weapons about to complete. And Clem is closing in. More damage getting done. He's looking for more and more. The Ravagers trying to come around the north side. +3. 27 SCVs. He's not really dealing with these roaches. Serral on top of the siege tank will be repaired. And Liberator sieging up. The double siege making it so difficult. Serral jammed into his own ramp. Clem on the high ground, working down towards the roaches and Ravagers. There's almost nothing in front of this. Another wave of corrosive bile. The bile is kind of scattered out. And Clem dipping in supply as well, but the reinforcements coming across the map. Throws out another fungal. Couldn't ask for much better than that. Burrows the infester, dodges to the back. Will survive for now. The medevacs, there were so many. The number has been whittled down. But I don't think they have the energy to sustain this. Serral, so close to holding this attack. But yet so far. The thing is, Clem is mining from the gold. He's got the siege tanks. Even if Serral holds this, there's still enough economy behind. There's still the upgrades. And Clem, GG, WP, congrats. It doesn't get easier. Serral may be a little on the earlier side, but he knows which way the wind is blowing. And in possibly the closest game of a 7-game series, the champion is Team Liquid's Clem. Oh, what a series. Another 7-game experience between the top 2 players in the world, clearly earning that place. And Clem, maybe, claiming a new one. As we go in, this was, I believe, the last major tournament before the Esports World Cup in, I believe, the end of July. So, quite a prelude indeed, as both these players are obviously qualified, and we might be seeing a repeat. Well, hopefully not exact repeat of last year. But I certainly hope it made your day a little bit better. Thank you to the Bellum, Gens Elite, Stara, Zagora for putting out another incredible tournament. If you're in the Balkan, not Baltic, I apologize, my American was showing. Balkan region, they put on regional tournaments on a regular basis as well. Really love the production and just the vibes of the tournament in general. A great time. So if you are nearby, make sure to check it out. Otherwise, if you got the means of motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership, maybe even. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. Thank you to our muleteer patrons bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jiggy Devendor, Kate, Mario, Random Guy in Suit, and everyone. Glad you still enjoy. Make sure to check out the other Serral vs. Clem series. We've been blessed by so many of them lately. Another one where Clem battlecruiser rushed just a few weeks ago. Maybe that's in the recommended over there. But thank you for watching. I certainly hope I made your day just a little bit better, and I hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Congratulations to Clem. And stay chill.